So we put our hands up like the ceiling can hold us. Like the ceiling can hold us. Hello, everyone. I hope you enjoyed our little introduction here. Just me and Amanda getting dancing and getting jiggy with it over here for the webinar.
Yes, we are excited and happy to spend our evening with you. So welcome to Reverse Your Picky Eating, Hypersensitivity, and Difficulty Concentrating free webinar. First of all, I wanted to give a little shout out to all of you moms in time for Mother's Day. We know that sometimes being a parent is a challenge, and you have many days where you see moments and things that are just hard to handle and hard to deal with. So today we're going to talk about how you can reduce or remove some of the tough moments in your child's life that include picky eating, hypersensitivity, and difficulty concentrating. And I wanted to share that it's kind of surprising to learn that you can focus on one thing to reverse all three of these challenges. So during this webinar, that's what we promise to teach you, is that these three things are related and how you can focus on one thing to resolve all three of them. And then after that, we will be making a special offer. But regardless, if you take us up on the offer or not, you are going to find tremendous value from this webinar. So please give a couple of moments to really kind of tune in and plug in today and give your full attention for this webinar. But we have a special bonus to provide to you, and that is, in addition to the content that you're going to be receiving throughout the webinar, we are going to send you an email with 5 essential nutrients video. So this is just some insightful information that we sat down with expert registered nutritionist Karen Hurd, and she has valuable insights about the key nutrients and elements in our food that can really help create your optimal health. And the second thank you kind of for showing up and participating tonight and being committed to kind of stick through this whole journey is a downloadable bonus resource with tips on how to increase love and respect between not only siblings, parents, but everyone in your family. So kind of 2 little special treats for all of you for being part of our webinar tonight.
Hey, and I want to jump in here and just tell everyone that during the webinar at any point, at the very end, we are going to have a Q&A session. So just there's a button that says Q&A that you can click on. Feel free to send over any questions you have at any point during the webinar, and we'll get to that at the very end. All right? So yeah, just send over whatever comes in your head. Just pop it in there, send it over, and we'll get to it at the end. Okay?
Yeah, so definitely we want to make sure that we cover everything that you need and just jot those down at any point. All right, so let's get started. In case you're wondering how Mike and I discovered how these 3 challenges are linked and kind of, you know, what our journey is. Well, we had kind of a curveball thrown at us in life.
Kind of.
Yeah, that's putting it lightly. We had a really tough year health-wise for a lot of us in our family. You may be familiar with our oldest daughter, Julia, a few years back, started having spontaneous seizures. So she was 8 years old and all of a sudden just out of the blue started having these seizures, and they progressed pretty rapidly. And it was really learning how to help her heal that we kind of uncovered the importance of the body's central nervous system. And what we learned is that the nervous system is literally the central line of communication inside your body. I mean, it literally controls how everything functions. So we'll share more details about the nervous system in a bit, but for now, just think of it like a light switch. So it's either turned on or off. And if you understand kind of that basic element about the light switch is really important, because that is kind of the crux of the matter that allowed our daughter Julia to heal from going anywhere from 10 to 15 seizures in a day that she had at one point and taking 4 anti-seizure medications to being completely healed and off all medication in record time. And also during that same time, obviously Mike and I were completely stressed out. Our lives were turned upside down. He ended up in the hospital on a number of occasions having massive anxiety attacks. And I had an autoimmune condition called Hashimoto's thyroiditis that had escalated. And when we were put in that stress of having the fear for our daughter's health and well-being, 2 different doctors at one point told me that, you know, the thyroid antibody numbers were off the charts. They were record breaking. So the crazy thing is, or I should say the amazing thing is that once we really got a handle on understanding our nervous system, we were able to not only help Julia heal, but Mike completely resolved his anxiety. I healed from the autoimmune condition and got that under control. And we also had other side benefits that we didn't even expect.
Yeah, I mean, I want to jump in here, even before we move on, with, I remember these days with my daughter just bringing back this picture every single time. It's so heartbreaking, and, I can barely even talk about it every time I see this, because I remember this exact day, and it was literally awful.
After she had 5 seizures in a row, she was just like passed out on the couch.
Yeah, because we weren't used to seeing so many seizures in a row. And I remember the time going through our family. It started, even our marriage was breaking down. It got really tough. And, my problems were a side focus compared to what was going on with our daughters. But even another step there, when I was going through my problems, there was a point like, right here where you can see great pictures of you, babe, by the way. So there's one point on the left there, I was 190 some pounds right there, and then one of the side benefits of me doing all this stuff was I ended up losing 30 pounds, and I got there not just, it wasn't a diet. And in fact, I ate as much as I possibly could. Whenever I was hungry, I was eating. I was just eating the right stuff. One of the lines we like to use is, it's not about counting calories, it's about making calories count. And so, that was such a great, benefit to all this. And even, I know my wife was going to talk about my allergies. I've had allergies since I was a little kid, going to the doctor every Monday. I remember getting 3 shots in my arms because the allergy was so bad, to this stuff disappearing overnight for me. It was truly amazing just how, when you give the body what it needs, it comes out with flying colors on the other side.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we also had another daughter, Avery, that was, challenged by having severe skin irritation. She had eczema for a while, off and on in different patches. And then she got this virus called molluscum contagiosum, which you can kind of see here, had major bumps that are like wart-like bumps all over her arms and legs and everything. And again, it was really understanding the role that the central nervous system plays in our body. And once we were able to kind of find balance, all of these things for all of us cleared up. And we are at a place where we've been able to achieve greater health and happiness than we even thought possible. So I guess what we didn't realize, and what we're going to share with you today, is that we had no idea about some of the major changes that have happened as just a part of our society. They're good changes in a way, but as long as you have an awareness, these changes have the effect of turning our light switch on very frequently. And if you're not intentional about, or even aware that that's what's happening, it's really easy to have your life get out of balance. And that causes all sorts of challenges like picky eating, hypersensitivity, and difficulty focusing. So we weren't even aware of what was impacting our health until kind of this whole journey. But I'll tell you, nothing lights a fire inside of you like the desire to find answers and get to the bottom of the cause when you see your little girl, passed out from having back-to-back seizures. So that was definitely kind of pushed us forward to spend many years and tens of thousands of dollars learning everything that we possibly could to rebuild her health. And in the process, like I said, we discovered these simple truths that improve all sorts of daily challenges. So today we're going to share that when you take a closer look at how you eat, how you live, and how you learn, you can discover that it's possible to solve all of these challenges. For example, did you know that the U.S. food supply has changed more in the past 20 years than it had in the prior 200 years? Another big change in the way that we live is the fact that the average child today takes in more information through their senses in 24 hours than our parents did in a full year when they were kids. So that speaks to kind of the increase in what I call like information overload, just excess stimulation. And we'll talk a little bit more about how that impacts our nervous system. And then finally, the third major change in how we learn is the fact that today, on average, children spend an additional 500 hours every year in structured activities. And that's just an increase of 500 hours over the last 30 years or so, since like the 1980s roughly. So again, all three of these changes are changes that can be fine and a balanced part of life if we're aware of how they kind of impact our body and how they work. But they do oftentimes have the effect of changing our nervous system and turning the light on all the time, especially if we're not aware of these changes. So today we're going to dive in to understand how our nervous system works a little bit so that you can learn and see what the light switch analogy is all about. So first, think of it this way. Like I said, the nervous system has two modes of functioning, the sympathetic mode and the parasympathetic mode. So I'm going to kind of take you through a little exercise. First, I want you to imagine yourself standing in your kitchen with a sink full of dirty dishes and food left over, plates all over on the stove and everywhere, the TV turned on in the other room, your dog barking at the back door because he sees a squirrel running by, and then your son or daughter comes running in the house flipping out because they can't find their folder for school and they can't find where their homework is. So that right there is what we call the sympathetic response. So this is like your light switch has been turned on. Another way to think of it is the fight or flight response. It really is triggering all of your energy and resources in the body to focus on your environmental stimuli and put attention towards the sensory perception of your sight, your sound, your vision, your taste. All of those senses, those 5 senses that we think of, are like cranked way up to maximum volume. So that is beneficial when it comes to saving your life or when there's a genuine threat. However, those responses are often activated simply from having a worried thought or even a quick movement. So we'll talk a little bit more about what triggers a sympathetic response, but just think of that as, light switch turned on, volume cranked way up on all of your senses. And now take a moment to compare. The other side is the parasympathetic response. So this, imagine if you're just closing your eyes and you're peacefully reclining on a lounge chaise on the beach, a private secluded beach, and there's the soft sand maybe underneath your toes, the warm sun sprinkling on your face and your body, blue sky, maybe a cloud or two passing, and it's nice and peaceful. The only thing around you is the soft rolling waves of the ocean. That's a very calming, relaxing environment, and that's what it's like when your parasympathetic system is activated, or that's the light switch off. And this is really important because in this phase, your body is able to give its best energy and resources to different systems and functions, like, for example, digestion and absorption. It's when your immune system is the strongest and can really fight off viruses and infections and keep your body running in tip-top shape. It's also when cells have the chance to repair and rebuild and grow. So especially for young children and children growing, the parasympathetic or light switch off phase is crucial in their healthy development. Another key thing to be aware of is the fact that during this light switch turned off mode, that's when we have access to what I think are the best resources in our brain. That's when the emotional stability centers of the brain turn on, as well as the creative and innovative thinking centers. So if you think of your brain as having different components and different parts, when the light switch is turned on, all of the energy and focus is going on your sensory perception areas of the brain. But when you have a chance to turn it off, that's when you, like I said, you can kind of get into a little bit more of the emotional side, having compassion and patience and kind of calmness, as well as the creative and innovative thinking parts of the brain. So when our daughter Julia started having seizures, we really had no idea that her light was turned on all the time. But once we started to understand these 21st century changes that I talked about earlier and how they impact our lives, it was just simply a matter of a choice to find balance. And like I said, both parts or both sides of the nervous system are equally important, but the key is to have them be in harmony and be balanced so that it's not too dominating to have one on or one off too often. So let's go and talk a little bit about the change we mentioned first, the change in how we eat. As you can see from this slide here, we give two examples of macaroni and cheese, right? So one is a homemade macaroni and cheese recipe, which I think is very easy to understand and has ingredients that everyone recognizes. And the other is a packaged macaroni and cheese product, a product that is probably very familiar with many people. But the point is not so much that, you know, one food is different from another or better or worse. I don't really want to get into the semantics of what foods people should be eating here today. That's not the point, but the point is simply to eat real foods. Eat foods that contain ingredients that our bodies recognize. Because when we eat, or when we have our kids eat foods that tend to be highly processed, oftentimes you'll see that ingredient label resemble the right side, where most of the words, we don't even know what they are and can have a hard time pronouncing them. And kind of rule of thumb is, if we don't know what they are, chances are the inner workings of our internal body doesn't really know what it is either and doesn't know what to do with it. So that gets interpreted like a threat, right? If you're flooding your system with unrecognizable ingredients, it could be treated just like a virus or a bacteria or something that the body has to fight off. And so that instinctively triggers the light switch to be flipped on. Because again, like I said, that is the fight or flight response. That's when your body's naturally just trying to protect itself. So I guess the real takeaway here is, by focusing on eating real food in their natural state whenever possible, that is such a dramatic impact on the overall health and happiness of not only your kids, but your whole entire family. So some examples we have here are obviously healthy proteins and vegetables, fruits. Legumes play a valuable component in detoxifying our body, as well as essential fatty acids that come from things like avocados or nuts and seeds. So all of these real foods, things that your great-grandparents would recognize, those are things to focus on for your children and give them opportunities to eat real foods as often as possible. And just remember, another side note here about the picky eating in terms of craving sugar. When our body is light switch on mode, that is a sugar burning fuel source. So that is when your body is naturally going to crave a lot of sugar or glucose. So if your child has unrelenting cravings for sugar, that is probably a big signal that their light switch is turned on frequently. It's a natural thing to like sugar. We're born genetically and it kind of evolved over time to enjoy the taste of sugar. But when you have an incessant desire for sugar, that is usually because your body is simply trying to get back to balance and find homeostasis. So that means it's burning sugar all the time because that's the primary source of fuel when your light is flipped on. So it simply wants to keep stockpiling sugar because it says, man, we burn through this stuff fast. We need to keep filling up here. So just kind of a side note how that relates to excess sugar cravings. All right, so now let's go on to the second change that we talked about, which is the change in our environmental stimulation. So as I mentioned before, things like, you know, increasing number of pixels on our TV screens or tablets or phones, all of that time that we spend looking at a screen that has high pixel count, that's great because it is a really clear, sharp image, but it also has additional work for our brain to register and process and to sort through. So that is something to keep in mind to balance the amount of time visually that you're stimulated. But another component that's very often overlooked is other aspects of our senses, right? So we live in a world today where so many things are filled with fragrances. You know, you have herbal shampoos and scented laundry detergents and fabric softeners and scented candles and aromatherapy. All of those things trigger a heightened sensory experience. So that, in effect, when your sensory input gets high, that has the effect of, again, flipping your light switch on. One of the other components that relates to that as well is noises. Like I said, when we have loud music on in the background, or TV playing, you know, in the other room frequently, or even, I don't know about you, but I used to always tell Mike that, man, oh man, sometimes there are days where I just wish I could have a mute button, because having 4 little girls, they know how to talk a lot, and it's like so much noise, and it literally used to stress me out at times. But even just being aware of all of the stimulation that comes from all of our senses, and finding ways to start to reduce the stimulation is one way that you can help balance your nervous system. And again, start to turn that light switch off for more hours or minutes out of every day. So a key element here is even just getting outside, because outdoors provides natural sunlight, which is a benefit. There tends to be kind of this calming effect in the body when we're outdoors and outside and kind of in our natural environment. So the more hours that you can spend outdoors where you're not under artificial lighting, also removing, like I said, some of those fragrances, using maybe unscented shampoos, or taking the candles out of the house, or, you know, just using less perfume and things like that. Those are all stimulating effects, not only for adults, but also for your children. I found that one of the key elements for Julia is, as soon as we discovered this, we started using unscented laundry detergents and dish soap and everything, because anytime she would be sleeping all day on a pillow or sheet cover that was, you know, clearly smelled like Dawn Fresh or whatever, even though it smells good, I like it, but that is a stimulating effect on her nervous system. So one way to kind of balance that and calm that is to remove some of the stimulation. Another thing that's helpful is to start to minimize either screen time or dim lights before bedtime. Kind of allow your child the space to start to reduce and calm down the sensory stimulation in their environment, especially as they're preparing to rest and go to sleep for the night. All right, so the third major change in our society today is how we learn. And I mentioned the statistic before that on average, a child has an additional 500 hours each year of structured time. And I want to stress that this is very important to have structured time, because I know we say oftentimes for younger children, they thrive when having structure introduced into their environment, having nap time schedules and things like that. And that is true, because again, the key here is balance. But what seems to be the growing trend is that as kids enter elementary school and grade school and kind of progress on their journey, there is less and less time allocated for unstructured activities and more time spent in structured activities. And let me kind of clarify for a moment what we mean when we say structured versus unstructured. So a structured activity is essentially where, I think of the easiest way to describe it is an activity or a time spent where somebody else is kind of setting the expectation or the objective for the time, right? So obviously time spent in school for the most part is structured time for children. I mean, with the exception of recess or maybe lunchtime, usually there's a teacher or an aide or someone kind of setting the objective and the, you know, the direction for how to utilize their time. Time even spent doing homework at home. So it's not necessarily time out of the house, but it's time spent doing homework, because again, there's an external objective or goal that has been set by someone else to achieve. Also, time spent in organized sports classes or teams, as well as music lessons. Those are all structured activities as well. And again, let me emphasize that structured time is valuable, and it does provide tremendous learning opportunities for our children. The important thing to keep in mind, though, is that it doesn't become overwhelming or imbalanced. Because like we said before, when you have that opportunity for unstructured time, that is when you tend to have the ability to turn the light switch off, because you're not trying to kind of rise to the occasion or meet some external objective. You're kind of just being who you are and in your natural state. And kids naturally are very creative and innovative. And that is when those creative and innovative parts of the brain are turned on and utilized. So as the kids get older, it's important to practice and allow opportunities for free time. And when I say free time, it can be, sometimes people say to me like, well, if I leave my son and daughter alone and don't, if they're not in a class or not, with a structured plan, they drive each other crazy and they get in fights and it turns into a disaster. And that can be true because, quite honestly, I think that takes practice. Learning how to self-monitor and kind of be self-driven and kind of entertain yourself is not something that is inherently natural for kids. They have to kind of learn how to be motivated on their own. But that is something that as they get older, it's important to continue to include, even if it's time, spent filming movies or journaling or, playing with Legos or building forts or making I know my brothers growing up used to love making dirt bike ramps and all these races and stuff over the neighborhood. Any kind of unstructured activity where the kids really are setting the standard, they're in charge, that allows them this opportunity to let their light switch be turned off and kind of engage in that creative, innovative space in their own lives.
And this even includes, playing sports, a pickup baseball game with the kids just on their own, without a coach around. I mean, that is unstructured time as well. So
yeah, definitely. So these are 3 changes in the 21st century that really have played a substantial role in impacting how people's, and primarily kids' light switches can either be turned on or off. And like I said, just to reiterate, the important part here is to help your kids find balance. So all of these things are really just, amazing changes and things that have happened, but balance is the key. And there's a ton of different ways to get there and to find a balance that works for your family. But just always think of that light switch and check in and kind of look for signals. If there are really excessive sugar cravings, that's kind of a really red flag signal that maybe there's some shifting around that we can do to help mitigate these things. So overall, if you can just kind of recap, when we provide real foods for our kids and we can help reduce the environmental stimulation from not only their visual stimulation, but the auditory sense, as well as touch and taste and smell in their environment. And then finally, make sure that we add in free time for their daily lives. These are all ways that you can help balance their nervous system, which reduces sugar cravings and calms hypersensitivity. Like I said, again, that emotional stability part of the brain is turned on when the light switch is flipped off. So those things help improve concentration and reduce irritability. So we are here to answer all your questions about the information that we just presented, but as promised, first we have a special offer for you. We have an invitation for you to join our Family Health Made Easy workshop. This is an exclusive 7-week guided workshop through our 7-step proprietary system. As you can see during this webinar, we touched very high level on some of the things that contribute to turning your child's light switch on. However, the workshop provides you a chance to dive much deeper into all of these aspects, plus many more, that impact your child's health and happiness. Our workshop includes 7 live group coaching calls, 1 every week. And by joining, you get to become part of the Hinman Holistic Health community, which is a great support for parents. We all like to feel that we're not alone in this journey. And the truth is, many of us are facing the same challenges and struggles on a daily basis. So it's great to find that support and community. And Mike and I are here to take you step by step each week and answer questions and share our expertise and make it easy for you to bring gradual changes to your family. And plus, on the group coaching calls, you'll have the added benefit of learning from other parents that want similar things for their families. So I always like to think, just like when I became a new mom with Julia, I joined a new moms group, and it was so awesome to have other moms that were going through the same thing. And we could say, like, what are you doing for nap schedule training? And what foods are you trying first? It's always just good to kind of learn from each other and bounce ideas off, especially as you're making changes for your daily habits.
And one of the things I want to stress here is this is truly a special program that we're putting out. This is a one-off event here. Normally, We do not do live coaching calls like this and go through our 7 steps over 7 weeks. So you're going to have a lot of value here, an incredible lot of value here. It's almost going to be like, I don't want to call it private coaching, but it's close to private coaching as you can for, for discounted rates. So like I said, we're doing this a 1-step through. This is for the people that are on the call tonight. We'd love to join you on this one and really take it to the next level and take, help everyone else out in their family. So.
Yeah, and as you can see during this program, we talked about 7 steps. So we kind of take it through. We first focus on the areas that help build a strong foundation for health and happiness in your family. And then after that, we move into how to elevate things to even higher level than you thought possible. And that kind of taps again into this whole idea of the nervous system and how that triggers everything and how it functions in your body. And then finally, to kind of wrap it up, we go a little bit deeper into looking at your beliefs and kind of getting rid of the negative mental chatter that tends to be a part of most people's lives, my life for a long, long time, and still working on it. I know that is an impact for our kids too, especially raising 4 daughters. I want to have daughters that are self-confident and feel, good about themselves and not be always the inner critic loud in their head. So we kind of take you through the journey of all of these steps throughout the course. And we also provide the 3 most important things in order to successfully create change in your family. And these are resources to gain the knowledge. Like I said, we've spent 10 years sifting through piles and piles of information, and it can definitely be overwhelming, but we are focused on sharing the key elements so that you can dramatically reduce the learning time. Don't spend the 10 years that we spent and kind of just take the good nuggets that are really impactful. The second thing that we provide is the tools to implement new knowledge into your life. So it's one thing to learn something, it's another story to actually implement it so you can see change. And that, I think, really comes from some of the brainstorming exercises and worksheets, and also our best parent-approved, kid-tested quick tips, like how to crowd out sugary foods for snacks and add in other healthy options, or how to make bedtime routine easier for everyone in the family. And then finally, the third thing that we provide is the supportive community to celebrate with you and hear you out and kind of just be by your side as you make this journey for change. So our Family Health Made Easy workshop provides 7 weeks of support and is normally $497. But today we are offering a special promotion, as Mike said. It's kind of a special deal the first time we're doing it this way, for only $297. So that's a 40% savings. And we would love to give away some little extra bonus nuggets. So the first 10 people that sign up tonight will receive a free 40-minute one-on-one coaching call with us, and that's a $215 value. Also, as a bonus, anyone that joins our workshop is going to receive a free copy of our book, Vibrant Child, 7 Steps to Increase Your Child's Health and Happiness.
Which is awesome. We just got the hard copies today in our hands. So a couple hours ago, we're pretty excited about that. It turned out great.
Yeah, great information in there. And then finally, live listeners today will receive an additional 50% savings. So
no, not 50% savings.
Oh, sorry,
$50 off. So
$50 off.
And I want everyone to know, yeah. So this is our bonus to everyone who tuned in tonight. We love people who come to our live events. We're going to take an additional $50 off, so it goes to $247 instead of $297. And just remember, everything that we offer out there is also a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you don't like what you see in the first month out there, just let me know and we'll refund you entirely. And one other thing I should say is, if you do, for our live listeners, if you do decide to sign up tonight, you will pay the full price right now, and I will have to reimburse you the $50 back tomorrow. So it's the only way I can set up the system to do that. And so I'm going to show you right now. Everyone should have received a chat from me to a link of the page where you sign up, and right now you should be seeing that on your screen. So this is our page. This is when we start. So it's going to be on Wednesday nights, our live call at 8:15. It's going to start a week from tonight, same time. I will send you the details later to log in. You can see our testimonials down here. You can see what you get, and then the contact information is below. Just fill it out, $297, and like I said, you guys will get $50 back by signing in tonight. So just click on the link you see in your chat, and it'll take you to that page.
Yeah, great. So today we want to now jump to some questions and make sure that we get everything answered. So please, if you have anything lingering, feel free to submit questions about any of the program details or anything else that we covered earlier in the webinar.
Let me pull up the questions here. If anyone has them, please keep sending them.
I have one question from Jessica. She says, when are the weekly coaching calls and what if I can't make every call? Like Mike said, so the calls are going to be Wednesday night at 8:15 for each week, 7 consecutive weeks. And obviously we encourage you to block this time off on your schedule and carve out the time. But if you have a conflict here and there, each call will be recorded. So it will be available for playback. And because it's very important to us that we make sure we answer all of your questions, we will be sending a questionnaire prior to every call based on the topic and what your questions are. And that way, if you're not able to attend live, you will still ensure that your question is answered and you can hear it in the playback of the recording.
Yeah, I mean, so that's a very good point there. I mean, even if you can't make the calls and you have very specific questions, send them in early. We will address them. The calls will most likely start with a couple-minute overview of the previous week. We're going to go deep into a lot of content that week in the terms of teaching you, and then we're going to open it up for more questions at the end. So it can get, very as in-depth to your personal situation as you want, or very broad based, and that's whether you're there or not. All the calls are going to be recorded and sent to you later, so you can still get your questions answered. Great question.
Yeah, and so from Sarah here, it says, what is the time commitment? I would say the calls on average will probably be about an hour each week. So it's a good idea also to build out an extra hour or so at some time throughout your week to really think through how you're going to implement the tools and the strategies with your family. Because like we said, we want this stuff to be actionable, not just something that you listen to once and then kind of tuck away and don't use. So I would say an average of about 2 hours per week would be a good estimate.
Someone here just asked to go over the bonuses one more time so we can bring it back here. We're going to have, if you sign up, the first 10 callers are going to get a free 40-minute private coaching call with Amanda and myself. You're also going to get, everyone's going to get our book, Vibrant Child, 7 Steps to Increase Your Child's Health and Happiness. Like I said, live listeners tonight, if you sign up on the page tonight, you will receive $50 back, of our $297 price, marked down from $497 already. And as always with our products, you have a 30-day money-back guarantee.
All right, I see from Betsy here, she has a question. How do you best advocate for in school for less screen time? So much of the day is on screens, and so is homework, so it's hard to have unplugged time when so much schoolwork is digital now too. Yes, I completely understand that, and that is a challenge. That's, like I said, that's part of, there are definite benefits to technology, and that's part of the dynamic that we work with, which is the school environment. One thing that can help is just to make sure when your kids come home from school, if you can focus on having some outdoor time first before going into homework and kind of breaking that up. Another piece that helps kind of regulate the nervous system is movement. So large motor movement, even things like jumping jacks or, doing somersaults, jumping on a trampoline. Again, the best thing, if you could do some type of large movement outdoors, that kind of is going to help reset the nervous system. Obviously, there are some parameters that you can't really avoid, and we have to find ways to navigate and work between, but building in that balance to the best of our ability is going to be so helpful for our kids. And again, kind of that winding down before bed. If you can remove stimulation from, sounds, TV screens, environment, even lights before, like an hour or so before bed, and maybe do quiet reading or something else, that is going to allow them to kind of transition into hopefully a deeper, more restful sleep, so that their body will then at least have the good quality sleep throughout the night to balance the inner stuff. Okay, so let's see if it says, you mentioned helping picky eaters. How do I help implement better foods if no one will eat them? Well, and this again is a common question, right? So it's a journey. It doesn't happen overnight, but key number one is to understand kind of what's driving that pickiness. So a lot of times kids have aversions to textures in food, or even strong tastes in food, and that is related to that high sensory perception, right? So if you remember when the light switch is flipped on, their volume is cranked way up. So anything that feels weird or tastes strong is going to be very unpleasant if you're amplified. So getting the nervous system switched off for a period of days and weeks in advance of even making some shifts with the food is helpful. So sometimes I tell people start with the nervous system balancing first, and then start to introduce new foods that you want them to try and taste, because if they're still stuck in chronic light switch flipped on, it's really, really hard. I mean, physiologically, their body is resisting excess stimulation. It's craving sugar and does not want that excess stimulation. So it's like fighting against biology. So again, I would say suggest to really focus on the other ways that you can help switch that light off for more minutes and hours throughout each day as a starting point. Let's see. Okay, so this is another viewer that says, can you give me specific examples of how this will help my child who has ADD? Yes. So like I said, that brain control center, when a child has their nervous system turned on, their focus is a very low priority for, it's basically like flipping around to everything in their environment, right? So they're looking for danger, and it's a weird analogy because you clearly look at them and you're like, there's no danger in their environment, but pretend it's like a lion is chasing them, right? Because their body physically is responding as if there is a major threat, even if they're just sitting in front of a tablet watching and it's a lot of stimulation in their eyes. But their body is responding as if it has to check out every single sound, every single, aversion, everything in their environment. So it's constantly flipping around the attention. It's not able to stay focused. And by helping to balance the nervous system, that is going to allow more opportunities for the calming down of that sensory overload. And again, tapping into the creative and the innovative centers in the brain that are turned on when the light switch is flipped off. So let's see, I also have Carrie asks, does the course cover similar content that we learned in the webinar? Yes, I would say our workshop starts with what you learned in the webinar tonight, plus much, much more. Tonight was just a very brief overview of how our nervous system works and impacts a person's health. But we definitely go into not only elaborating on this information, but we also talk about how different areas of our lives, like relationships and activity and reducing the negative mental chatter, how that all plays a role in our child's health and happiness in the course. Let's see, what else here do we have? From Lori, it says, my daughter's light switch remain, will my daughter's light switch remain off if she eats real foods instead of processed foods? Yeah, in general, I would say there are a number of things that trigger the light switch to be flipped on. But yes, in general, when our body receives nourishing foods with ingredients that it recognizes, it knows that these are good and these are things that it needs to build new cells and to function and to work well. So that is like almost like a, it's like a supportive calming effect on the body when they really are nourishing real foods. In comparison to kind of those unrecognizable chemicalized food-like substances, as I call them.
One of the viewers here asked, when do we have to sign up to receive the bonuses? All the extra bonuses that you see on the screen now, you will receive no matter when you sign up, except for the $50 savings. That needs to be done tonight. Actually, I should say before I wake up in the morning. So when I wake up in the morning, if you signed up before then, you will receive the additional $50 off. And again, that's for everyone who tuned in tonight.
Okay, and this is from an anonymous viewer. My 9-year-old has anxiety. Will your program help with this, and if so, how? Yes, well, so I would say our program is based on what we experienced in our lives. And to be quite honest, without realizing it, I think anxiety was kind of the underlying precursor to our daughter Julia's seizures, and clearly was an impact in Mike's anxiety attacks, really, right? That ended you in the hospital. So that definitely is something that is a huge component, and I think it affects many people, and we tackle that from a variety of ways. Not only, like I said, the nervous system we talked about, but we also tackle it from a nutritional standpoint and kind of understand what elements help detoxify our body from excess hormones that cause anxiety, as well as from kind of that emotional, mental perspective. Like, you know, again, a lot of the anxiety is triggered from worried thoughts and scared fears that sometimes are even irrational, but we have them anyway. So we do definitely tackle a whole host of things that help with anxiety.
One of the questions just came in laughing at me, asking what time do I wake up in the morning?
That's a good question.
It actually is a good question, and I will be in front of the computer by 9 o'clock a.m. Central Time to cut off the $50 savings.
Hey, that's a good question. Okay, so Svetlana asks, I have a friend that would really be interested in this program. Can she sign up without being on the webinar? Yes, actually, thanks for asking, and thank you for thinking of your friend. I think we always want to share this information to whoever would deem it valuable. So what I would tell you is you will be receiving a link with the sign up and information, as well as the bonuses just for being a part of the webinar today. Feel free to forward that link or that email to your friend if you have someone in mind that may want to join us. Are you guys going to have a Facebook group? Yes, that absolutely is part of our community. And, you know, so we will have a group for the Family Health Made Easy workshop participants. And definitely, you know, that's a way that we help connect all parents with each other and with us. Okay, so another person, Kelly, asked, what are your thoughts about essential oils? I assume these are the same as any other fragrance. Now this is tricky, and I think I tend to be very careful because I have a lot of dear friends that use essential oils and love them, and I personally have used them at times too. However, I will say that they are a fragrance, and the sense of smell is different than the other senses. It is the fastest activated scent in our brain. So in other words, the other ones have to go through a different part of the processing of our brain and kind of get filtered out through, I'm going to not get too technical, but through the rational thinking part of the brain, and it kind of filters like, is this really a threat, or what is this? Whereas the scent of smell, for whatever reason, I think it's just a life-saving mechanism to save us from fire or something like that. It is directly processed immediately. So that is a very strong sensory response. Now, having said that, there are benefits. Some essential oils do actually help promote a calming response in the body. So they may actually help flip that light switch off. So you have to be really careful about, my general rule of thumb is balance is key, and using too much of anything can be harmful, right? So using some essential oils occasionally here and there, or for some things in your home or in your house or with your child, may be fine, and it may have some benefit even. But even like Tylenol, medicine, right? We don't want to use too much of a good thing, because too much of any good thing can become detrimental. So I would just say kind of be mindful of that.
You know, someone again asked where to sign up, so I'll send the link over by chat again right now, and just so you can see the screen again, this is what it looks like. This is our page. It's hinmans.pages.entreport.net/FHME-May 2016. So that's Family Health Made Easy-May 2016. And this is when we're going to begin. So here's where you sign up.
Okay, I also have from Karen, can you share tips? Where are you? Okay, can you share tips to help a picky sugar monger introduce more real foods into his diet? Yes. So again, this is kind of, you know, it's a tricky thing, kind of like what I said before. Really getting the nervous system in balance first is huge step number one. You can always offer real foods, and I'm sure you've probably heard this before. Getting your kids involved and choosing which options they're open to is sometimes helpful. Having them even be involved in the food preparation, like if it's cutting up carrot sticks, or, you know, helping you pick out, you know, a side dish of something with dinner. Those things work for some children, but let's be honest, they don't work for many children. And I go back to, I think the bottom line first and foremost has to be balancing of the nervous system, because no matter what, we cannot force our kids to eat things. Trust me, I've tried. Mike knows I was for many years the sugar police in our house, and it's not worth it making it a battle. It really is more impactful and meaningful to teach your kids about why things are beneficial and why things are harmful or what they're actually doing. So again, we'll go into much more detail in the course about the impact of different foods, and even give you kind of a parameter, or, you know, actually it's in the video that you guys will receive. Karen Hurd is an amazing nutritionist, and she works with it, and she shares that once you hit over 5 grams of sugar per serving, there is a whole cascade of hormonal effects that happens in the body. So, and that immediately triggers a light switch to be flipped on for your child. So if you look at anything that your child is eating and there's more than 5 grams of sugar, you know instinctively that their light switch is definitely flipped on. So when we talk about that, we kind of talk through language that helps the kids understand what that does to their body and how they can choose different options that actually have a beneficial impact. So a lot of it is just the education, but again, you have to get over that biology piece. If they're fighting that fight or flight response and light switch is flipped on all the time, no matter what you say, they're not going to listen. Let's see. I have from Carrie. My daughter is 10 years old and she has sensory processing disorder. So she lives in overstimulation mode all day long. How do these concepts apply to someone like her? Yes, well, as she is, so that is frequent. And so someone who is in sensory processing disorder, they have that on all the time. So it is even more important to be diligent about intentionally turning the light switch off with these things. So getting those real foods in, getting the less stimulation in the environment. And I know that sometimes it takes some pretty major shifts to happen initially before you start to see changes. But when you do it, the key is getting kind of out of the spin, out of the cycle. Because once you can kind of shift things and just get out of that perpetual cycle, then things can start to balance and your body starts to recognize, hey, I like to be in this light switch off mode better. This is like a vacation compared to what I'm used to. So it's really about taking little baby steps to get there for little periods of time first, and then the body adapts and adjusts because it likes that place better. It functions optimally there. Let's see here. From Patty, you said you mentioned that your daughter had molluscum. What tips can you share about successfully treating the virus? My daughter has it, and it's a nightmare to treat. Yes. Okay. So we went through a whole host of things. We tried, I remember I tried ordering some skin thing online that said it helped. We also tried the Beetlejuice thing that the pediatrician said that they could put on, and it basically zaps them and burns them off. And she just kept having more and more and more crop up. And it really wasn't until we got to the point of balancing her nervous system. And I'll tell you why. Because the nervous system, like I said, when it's on light switch off mode, that's when your immune system is at its best. And the key to fighting molluscum or warts or many things like that is having a strong immune system. Especially for me with my autoimmune condition, it was having my immune system functioning at a high level. Because when it can't function at a high level, it really doesn't have the capacity or the power to fight off viruses. Like that molluscum is literally a skin virus. So what's happening is, unfortunately right now, your daughter's immune system is not strong enough to fight it off. And by doing changes in balancing her nervous system, you're going to give her body more opportunity to maximize her immune system's response so that it can get stronger and can fight it off. I mean, literally, we went from having her have those bumps for, I think she had them for like 9 or 10 months before we finally kind of understood the stuff and started making some changes. And then everything cleared up within 4 weeks. It was amazing. Let's see. So what are some other questions? Angela says, do you have any good resources for healthy meal options and recipes? We do. And yes, so you know what, we definitely have information that will be shared as part of our workshop. That's part of the food piece that we cover in week 2, I believe it is. And stay tuned to our website. We will post different resources and blogs. So I would always say stay connected because we definitely share. There's a recently fermented dilly carrot recipe That is one of our favorites, super easy, and it's loaded with probiotics, so that's a good one to look up. But yes, I would definitely say stay connected, and if you want more, that would be provided for sure within the workshop. Let's see. So Betsy says, it's impressive that you have managed so much holistically. What is your view on the role of medication in managing neurological nervous system issues? So this is a tough one. I don't typically obviously don't give medication recommendations by any regards. I definitely suggest working with your doctors and specialists. However, what I do wholeheartedly believe is that medication is necessary when you're in an acute phase, for sure. Like I said, Julia was on 4 different anti-seizure medications because she had to be. I mean, there was literally a day where I pulled her up from the bottom of my parents' pool. She had a seizure in the middle of the pool and she could have drowned to death. Another day where she fell over and cracked her head on her mirror in her bedroom. So she had to get her seizures to stop because at any moment they would happen so randomly that she could have been in a life-threatening situation. So I definitely believe that there is a role for medication in certain situations. However, I also wholeheartedly believe that the human body is amazing and it has the ability to find balance and to heal itself when the environment is able to balance. For some people that takes a long time, especially given kind of the history or what's happened in their life. That may take time, but it's something that is always a possibility down the road in the future. So I guess my recommendation is if there's a way to approach medication as this is great for now because it's helping us now, but it's not the long-term objective, and always continue to make strides in ways that are naturally and holistically going to help your child find balance, you may find sooner rather than later that they are able to no longer need that medication. Oftentimes children are tremendously resilient and their bodies can bounce back even faster than we could ever expect. Let's see here. This is another one that says, do you suggest supplements like probiotics for an 8-year-old? I do think supplements, again, are one of those, there's not a cookie cutter answer for everyone. Part of our process in our coaching is that we wholeheartedly believe in bio-individuality, meaning there is not one answer that fits for every scenario. You have to kind of look at your child and your family and figure out the best balance. But having said that, probiotics are an important part of our body's immune system. They align the whole inner track of our digestive system, and they really are essential for allowing our absorption and our digestion to work in the way that it does. A key component for probiotics I will share is that probiotics tends to be the emphasis, and they are important, but in order to keep probiotics alive in your body, in your child's body or in your body, you have to have adequate and consistent amounts of prebiotics, or what's called prebiotics. That's essentially food for the probiotics, because probiotics are little microscopic organisms. So if they don't have the right kind of food to thrive, even if you take a probiotic supplement, it's going to die off. And the food that you put in on a regular basis is what dictates the type of microorganisms that are going to thrive. So if your child is eating high sugary processed foods, those, no matter how many probiotics they take, that is most likely going to cultivate the feeding ground for a pathogenic type of pathogenic type of balance in their gut lining. However, when you can shift to more real, natural whole foods, those are the types of foods and the types of complex carbohydrates that are the perfect prebiotic food for maintaining a healthy probiotic balance. So I hope I didn't get too complex there for you. The long and the short of it is probiotics are definitely important, and there is a variety of ways to help maintain a healthy balance in your gut.
Christy says here, she can't wait to share this with her friends. It sounds life-changing. And I just want to jump in and say this has been transformational in our family. I was the father, who just didn't believe in this stuff whatsoever. I used to make fun of Amanda back in the day when she would try to just relay information to me, until I was actually forced to find alternative answers. And once I did that, we came out the other end just with incredible flying colors. You know, our marriage, you know, was almost lost at one point, and then today we're, you know, we have a bond stronger than ever, and it's been the best thing that's ever happened for me and Amanda personally, but it funnels down to your kids 110%. And so, you know, I'd say our kids just so happy right now and thriving, and we couldn't be more thrilled. So I thank you, Christy, and I hope everyone else takes that to heart. And if anyone needs any help, you know, talking to their husbands, that's what I'm here for. All right.
Yeah.
You know, just to wrap up here, it looks like we're just about done, but people want to know if we're going to be recording this. They want to send it to some people. Yes, we are. We'll get that all wrapped up with our videographer and stuff, and we'll get that sent off to people as soon as we have it. And then if anyone does have any additional questions about the workshop, feel free to reach out to us and contact us in any way. You can use Mike and Amanda at Hinmans.com, or you can call 312-316-3689. And I'm going to put this in the chat right now. That's our email, and then that's the phone number. Feel free to reach out at any point in time just to talk, or if you have questions about anything. You know, Amanda and I are here to service you as much as we can. So thank you very much. I appreciate all the wonderful comments.
Yeah,
and we appreciate you tuning in today.
Yes, I love these. Great job. Thank you so much. We're very excited to be here with you guys.
All right. So take care, everyone. We're leaving. Bye-bye.